It's locked, all right.
Traces of a pinkish foam at the corner of the lips. Some sort of drug overdose, perhaps? Multiple abrasions and scarring on the arms and legs. Old and distinctive injuries of a sailor or a fisherman. The chest was originally opened to perform the operation. The sutures are clean, but the chest has been reopened. A puncture over the left lung, possibly a chest tube insertion. Not the cleanest work, but I think it was successful. Signs of internal bleeding. So, Dr. Tippett's anesthetics were incorrectly dosed, causing the patient's death. And then he tried to operate on him again. Tippett has made an egregious error. It's time we talked.
More of us, less resignation, and more determination.
No, I can. I wish I could say the same for the others.
You look exhausted. You're pushing yourself too hard. You don't have to bear the burdens of this hospital alone.
Good evening, Dr. Tippett.
Dr. Reed, any good news to share?
You're exhausting yourself, Corcoran. Maybe you should think about preserving your strength.
No. We must keep on healing all those poor souls. We are the last rampart before chaos. Once more, unto the breach.
Nurse Brannigan is worried about you, Doctor.
She should not have told you that. I will have a word with her.
You don't have to blame her for her honesty.
I'm not that kind of man, my dear Jonathan. Actually, Nurse Brannigan's opinion is the only one I may listen to.
Corcoran, I want you to tell me about Mr. Connor. How did he die? What happened?
He was my patient. He died because of my mistake. That's the blunt truth.
What was the nature of the mistake?
It was a twofold error. My diagnosis was wrong, and the administered dosage was too strong.
Who was this patient?
I don't know. Some sick man from the docks, maybe a fisherman. I had no time to talk with him. No one claimed a body.
Why not stop practicing?
Are you mad? I killed that man, I admit it, and it won't happen again. I have saved so many lives since then.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
Tell me what Dr. Tippett did. I know his mistake caused a patient's death.
If I had not covered up his error, Dr. Tippett would have been fired from this hospital. I could not let that happen.
You can't allow your emotions to dictate your conduct concerning patients, Nurse Brannigan.
Look around you, Dr. Reed. Do you really think we can afford to lose a brilliant practitioner like Dr. Tippett's in our situation?
Perhaps you did it with the best intentions, Nurse Brannigan, but you took a great risk. Must I remind you that a man died?
You mean you've never made a mistake? Never covered your tracks? Come on, Doctor. I wasn't born yesterday.
I've decided that I won't reveal Dr. Tippett's, shall we say, misdemeanor.
I'm so glad you share my point of view. Dr. Tippett is a brilliant practitioner. We most definitely need his know-how.
I hope you're right. This is a huge risk we're taking.
Dr. Tippett must regain his confidence. Please, keep this decision between you and me. He doesn't need to know you've found out.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance. Good evening, Dr. Tippett.
Dr. Reed, any good news to share?
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, Dr. Tippett.
Dr. Reed, any good news to share?
Do you need any medical assistance yourself, Doctor?
Yes, indeed. But don't worry, I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself.
I have no doubt about it, but you are still ill all the same. Please, take this medicine.
I appreciate your concern, Dr. Reed. To be honest, I just did not take the time to diagnose myself.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, Dr. Ackroyd.
You're the last person that I want to see right now, Dr. Reed.
I see that you are as friendly as ever.
Are you really going to ask me why? That would just be more evidence of your selfishness.
Do you need my assistance?
Don't be ridiculous. I'm capable of dealing with this myself. I've just not taken the time to do so.
Then you are lucky that I have taken the time to do so. Consider it a gesture of solidarity between professionals.
I wish this hospital could have received as much attention from you, Dr. Reed. We do not see you in surgery very often.
What do you think of Dr. Tippett's opinion of your promotion, Waverly?
Who cares? How could I ask for a promotion after we let a patient be killed? That would be disgraceful.
How do you think these recent events will affect the Pembroke Hospital?
I am not blind. There is something strange about you and Dr. Swansea. One day you'll have to provide answers.
You are troubled by the death of your patient. I understand. It is something that haunts everybody in our profession.
Harvey Fiddick died inside these walls, under our watch. We failed him, all of us.
Don't you think the epidemic is enough to deal with, without wasting time on insults and suspicions?
Yes, the epidemic. Convenient, isn't it? Just like the war, really. Hundreds are already dying, so who cares about one more?
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Do you need my medical attention, dear colleague?
I would have been confused if anyone other than you had asked that question, Dr. Reed. But your help is welcomed.
There is no shame in helping each other. We're colleagues, after all.
Many doctors I have known are too cynical to think that way.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Such a pleasure to see you again.
Tell me the truth about your appointment as a medic during the war, Rakesh.
The regiment administration appointed me by mistake. I had to learn the job on the spot, sir. Very hard, sir, but I rose to the challenge.
You can't impersonate a doctor. You can't improvise a medical education. People could die at your hands.
You're absolutely right, sir. But as a field surgeon, it was more like being a butcher.
Do you believe you have really helped these people?
My ratings were within the averages of the regiment. I saved lives, Dr. Reed. Does that not say enough about triage and war surgery?
Do you realize how many soldiers died because of that decision? You should have refused.
Yes, sir. I swear I did, sir. But no one listened. When the first wounded arrived, I had to do what I could.
It is an unbelievable story, Mr. Chidana.
It was a time beyond belief, Dr. Reed. But I'm happy not to deal with the wounded. I prefer caring for the dead now.
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
So many deaths.
It ain't you, let's kill it! Oh! You are gonna die, bloody traitor!
Crush the legion! Fuck! I hate leeches!
Good evening, Christina.
Change your mind, Mr. Reed?
How are the conditions in Whitechapel these days?
When I think about all the people who died trying to reach England, it seems we escaped a war just to die on foreign shores, hated by all.
Goodbye, miss. Take care of yourself as best you can.
You again? What do you want this time?
How is the sanitary situation in Whitechapel?
I'm not easily scared, but crazy killers and armed patrols are lurking about. My son's right about this place.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Cheap, good quality. Come on, take a look. Don't be afraid. Fancy buying something, sir?
You never lose your focus, do you? How are the current conditions in Whitechapel?
When there's more people outside at night than during the day, then you've got to start to worry.
Joe Peterson. He's the villain here, isn't he? But you seem to know each other.
I'd known Joe for years. I saw him box once or twice. He was a friend then. But these days, he's just another thug.
What can you tell me about Mr. Peterson? Besides his behavior toward you, obviously.
Colossus Joe was a decent boxer, good one even. But after his wife passed away, he found every excuse to stop training. Just wanted to pick fights with everyone.
Without making excuses for him, it's safe to say that despair can poison even the sanest mind.
We've all had some rough times, ain't we? But most of us don't use our fists to see us through.
And no one has ever stood up to this thug.
Nobody would be fool enough to stand against a wet boot boy.
Right then. Show me what you have. Hello, young man. I'm Dr. Reed, and I would like to ask you a few questions. May I enter, please?
Sorry, no, sir. My father does not like people entering our house, you see.
Your father is worried about you, boy. He asked me to look for you.
So my father actually worries about me, then? Okay, then. Come on in. I'm Harry, by the way. Is there only pain and suffering in this world?
So, may I ask you a few questions?
I'm not bothered. What could be worse?
Have you any recent news of Nurse Crane and her dispensary?
Nobody dares to enter the dispensary now. Rumors say the nurse has gone mad.
How do you feel?
I'm fine. I mean, it's not easy every day, but I'm fine. I'm just tired of being sick all the time. If only I could be tough, like... well, you know.
Speaking of which, what can you tell me about your father?
My father is an idiot who makes idiot things. That's all I have to say.
Forgive my bluntness, young man, but you don't seem happy living in Whitechapel.
Why should I? I never wanted to come here in the first place. It was my father's decision. And look around you. Does this look like a nice place to live?
This place is awful, I agree. But does that not mean your situation can only improve?
That's exactly what my father says. Harry, you should be grateful for what you've got. I wasn't even consulted when we moved here.
If life here is so terrible for you, why don't you just leave this place? Have you ever spoken to your father about it?
I don't go outside. It terrifies me so. I went outside once without my father noticing and I saw terrible things. Bloody and frightening things.
So that's why you stay at home all day? For fear of the epidemic?
I'm not afraid of disease or death, Dr. Reed. It's the living I'm afraid of.
Your father and Mr. Lewis used to be good friends. What happened, Harry?
I was young then. I don't remember Mr. Lewis ever coming back again after my mother died. Or was it after my father started bullying him? I don't know.
Have you tried speaking to Mr. Lewis about it?
I don't go out often, but yes. And he scolded me and told me to leave him alone. I guess my father frightens him too much.
But you are not responsible for your father's actions.
Am I not? Dad always says that he joined that gang for my safety. So if I wasn't born, people wouldn't be worrying about Colossus Joe.
Goodbye, young man. Take care of yourself.
Is there only pain and suffering in this world? Even my dreams are soaked with gloom.
It's locked. It's locked, all right.
Always been wretched.
You again? What do you want this time?
Why do you keep on working for the gang, Joe? You know it doesn't suit you.
It's true, I hate this job. And I know I made some bad choices, but I'm a wet boot boy now. And people won't forget it.
You could leave tomorrow. Start another life in another town.
That's easy for you to say, Doctor. We are poor. My son's weak. And there's no way he'll endure another disappointment.
Harry doesn't seem happy living in Whitechapel. Why did you make him come here?
I've always put my son's interests above everything else. Whatever he may think. Our house is small but affordable. The walls are thin, but the door is solid.
You really love your son, don't you, Mr. Peterson?
He's my pride and joy. Even if he hates me for the choices I make and pushes me buttons more than he should.
Do you have any regrets?
Only one. Not to have my beloved wife by my side. She died when Harry was little. My sweet Jane. She gave the boy confidence.
Since the criminal nature of your job means you could be arrested, are you not afraid of what would happen to your boy if you were?
No one will ever take my son away from me. If that ever occurred, I'd hunt the bastard down and rip off his head with my bare hands.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Joe, please, I don't have your money.
Come on, Barrett, you know the game. You pay for peace of mind.
Can't you just look the other way this week, Joe? Come on, we can sort it out, right?
It's not my call, Barrett. You paid one way or another.
Please, Joe. How long have we known each other? We even used to be neighbours, for Christ's sake.
Good evening, Mr. Whitaker.
It's Father Whitaker, my son. So, are you still lost in your rational delusions?
I have found Samuel, your disciple. I am afraid I have bad news.
I already expected the worst. He should already have come back. He is dead, isn't he?
Yes, he is now. The epidemic took him.
Samuel steadily made donations to our cause. He would have rewarded you himself if you'd found me in that awful cemetery. Please accept this money.
Tell me the reason why you despise Joseph Larrabee so much, Tobias.
A faithless shepherd is the worst criminal, for he leads his flock to the abyss by disregarding the right path. God smote this man, for he doubted.
I only met him briefly, but he seemed a dedicated man who tried to provide guidance.
Do you not believe in punishment, my son? I am not talking about the law of men. I am talking about judgment from heaven.
I believe in the logical and factual organization of everything in the universe. God, if he exists, is just a principle waiting to be discovered.
Armageddon is upon us, Dr. Reed. The final battle where every soul will be weighed. I'm afraid yours will burn for a long time.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences, and most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening to your so-called truth.
As a doctor, you must be aware of the decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu is just the beginning of the end.
What do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own eyes I have seen them, those minions from the abyss.
I have heard enough. Goodbye. Good evening, Mr. Whitaker.
It's Father Whitaker, my son. So, are you still lost in your rational delusions?
Tobias Whitaker, confess why you burned those people alive.
I have done what no one was ready to do. I will smite the flesh of the unclean to protect the righteous.
You are just another heartless murderer, exploiting the epidemic to kill with impunity.
No! No. The only way to contain the spread is to strike at the source itself. The proliferating sick.
You're not the savior of London. You're just a glorified sadist.
I take no pleasure in this awful cleansing, Dr. Reed. I am only driven by the thousands of innocents I save each night.
Why did you send Samuel to the cemetery, Tobias? What did you see there?
I sent him on a vision. A dream of a dreadful and laughing queen covered with blood, sleeping with the dead and feeding on the fear of the dying.
A laughing queen dressed in blood. Tell me more.
This epidemic is her feast, the announcement of her return. Against her, science is no more than a child's toy.
But who is she?
She is the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. She is Babylon, drunk on the blood of the saints.
Why did you send Samuel to the cemetery, Tobias? What did you see there?
I sent him on a vision. A dream of a dreadful and laughing queen covered with blood, sleeping with the dead and feeding on the fear of the dying.
A laughing queen dressed in blood. Tell me more.
This epidemic is her feast, the announcement of her return. Against her, science is no more than a child's toy.
But who is she?
She is the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. She is Babylon, drunk on the blood of the saints.
Your disciple, Samuel, stole from the dead in Stonebridge Cemetery. I have proof of his crime and proof of his death.
No! Samuel was the best of us. So devoted, so zealous. He gave all he had for the cause. He tirelessly preached the good word.
He defiled the dead with his petty thefts. That's how he financed your misguided crusade.
Think what you will. When this city is saved, he will be praised for his devoted fortitude. He walked boldly into the mouth of abomination.
Your precious Samuel used you. He was an immoral crook.
If that's true, then he will be my burden to bear during this endless night.
How is the sanitary situation evolving in Whitechapel these days?
Don't you hear the trumpets? The apocalypse is upon us, Dr. Reed. The final battle.
I have heard enough for tonight. Goodbye. It's locked.
Good evening, my dear colleague.
How is the sanitary situation evolving in Whitechapel these days?
When people buy guns instead of medication, it means they have already traded hope for fear in their hearts. In my book, that's never a good thing, Doctor.
Goodbye, Miss Swanborough. Perhaps we'll talk again.
When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again.
What? Shooting a boy in the middle of the street. Not the best thing to do, wouldn't you say?
What? You saw what happened? Who are you?
I'm Dr. Reed, and I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you promise me to set your gun aside.
No. Look, I'm not a violent man. I'm Benjamin Palmer, doctor. And no one can help me. Not even you.
I have found a very interesting letter. Your son planned to prove his worth to the gang by stealing your medicine.
Oh, I see. So the little bugger thought he could use his dad to build a reputation.
The gang's recruiter was dead when I found him. Perhaps you should take better care of your son.
I love my Albert, sir. Believe me. It's just... well, I'm an arsehole, I suppose. Anyway, thanks for the letter. This is for your trouble.
Whatever the boy did, I'm sure he didn't deserve a public execution.
I swear I didn't want to hit him. It's just that I'm sick in the head, you see, and the boy just failed me last nerve.
Perhaps you could focus for a moment and tell me your troubles.
I'm sick, broke, and my son just stole my pills. Everything's coming up roses.
What can you tell me about this place?
Nothing to say, really. This is where I used to live. This is where I live now.
You don't have anywhere to go? No family that would welcome you?
Not since the death of my wife, Albert's mother. She was sick, you see. Long before the flu and all this shit.
You mean you used to have a better life?
Yeah, I had a wife, a home, and a job. I even used to have a name. And now I'm just Ben. Ben the Tramp.
How are conditions in Whitechapel these days?
I hear gunshots every night. It's just like the war in the trenches, Doctor. I can't stand it.
A gun, alcohol, and a bad temper make a terrible cocktail, sir. Goodbye for now.
When science fails you, this
Good evening, Mr. Petrescu. What are you doing here?
I could ask you the exact same question, Mr. Doctor. Now leave me alone.
What do you plan to do now that Nurse Crane is gone?
I'm not sure. Strange men came to see me after Dorothea's death, with strange weapons and very odd stories.
What kind of stories?
Stories all Romanian children know. It was as if I was home again. Vampires, Mr. Doctor. Vampires.
You believe them? Aren't you too old to hold a weapon or listen to scary stories?
Yes, I am old and alone and will die soon, but if these stories are true, maybe I have found myself another cause.
Are you living on the streets, Mr. Petrescu?
And why not? Those who believe they'll be safe behind walls are blind.
What about your house?
My house is always open to any poor soul needing a roof. All my work here is lost now that Dorothea is gone, thanks to you.
Why are you so aggressive?
I remember the night you came here and convinced me to open my door to you, sir. I'd like to punch you right on your chops.
Tell me everything you know about Camellia, the mute florist.
I do not believe in the afterlife, Doctor, but I'm almost convinced Camellia is an angel. She volunteered to give out our medical leaflets.
Did you refuse to publish Richard Nethercott's previous works, Darius?
Yes, his manuscript is as pompous as he is starched. Now there's a man who loves the sound of his own voice.
You could have told him so.
As a great writer recently said, politeness is the most acceptable hypocrisy.
I heard what happened to Nurse Crane. How do you feel, Mr. Petrescu?
Everything was going well until you arrived. Dorothea helped people and will be sorely missed.
I regret it too. I wish she'd continued working at the Pembroke Hospital. She was a good nurse.
So you put an end to the operation. Did you put an end to Dorothea as well?
You seem to have a lot on your chest, sir. What's wrong?
I heard you are a famous surgeon. Tell me, what did you do to Dorothea? She was so bright, so clever. Then you made her an empty shell.
I didn't use drugs or medical trickery, Mr. Petrescu. All I did was talk to Nurse Crane. I promise you.
But what happened to her then? After you left, she did not even recognize me. And then she got careless and sick, and I had to flee.
How is the sanitary situation in Whitechapel?
Terrible, to say the least. Maybe now you understand the importance of Dorothea's work here. But you never cared, did you?
That's quite an accusation.
Stop pretending, Mr. Doctor. All you wanted was to confront Dorothea. You never intended to help Whitechapel's people.
There isn't just one way to help Whitechapel.
Your way seems to attract sorrow and despair, Mr. Doctor. Your kind of care is not what Whitechapel needs.
Goodbye, Mr. Petrescu. Good evening, Mr. Petrescu.
Surely you have someone else to bother, Mr. Doctor.
How do you feel, Mr. Petrescu? Do you need my help?
I would not even accept fresh water from you, Doctor. I don't need your help.
Yes, you do. Please, take this. You'll feel better.
I said I don't want anything. But I'll keep this for those who really need it.
Goodbye, Mr. Petrescu. Good evening, Mr. Petrescu.
Surely you have someone else to bother, Mr. Doctor. Who will assist Dorothea helping our comrades now that I die?
Good evening, Zhao Shun.
Wang Shanghao, Dr. Reed. It's good to see you again.
What are you doing with your time, now that you're back in Whitechapel?
I've decided to help the poor and sick of the neighborhood by handing out medicine.
Giving out medicine? How can you afford to do that?
I am a rich widow, Dr. Reed. My departed husband left me enough money to last the rest of my life. I can spend some on those who don't have any.
That's very charitable of you. But why do it at night?
I've noticed that the most desperate people tend to go out after dark. Hence my presence, to help them when I can.
Why don't you move to a better neighborhood?
I thought about it, I confess. To go back to the same empty home every day still hurts me a lot.
Why stay here then?
I am a woman of habit, Dr. Reed. And for now I am happier being useful in a familiar place than I would be anywhere else.
How do you feel now that you're back in Whitechapel?
I've decided to follow your advice, sir. I won't forget the dead, but my efforts will be for the living.
I've no doubt. That is a wise and useful attitude in this part of town.
To be completely honest with you, I am also doing this for myself. If I'm destined to survive this epidemic, I need my life to have some purpose.
Do you still think about your departed husband?
Of course I do. I'll never forget my beloved Matthew, but how do I put it? Now I miss him more than I want him back.
I know what you mean. And I think it means you're getting better.
Maybe death will take me the way it took Matthew. Without warning and without mercy. But until then, I live on.
Goodbye for now.
people who could use my help here.
Good evening, Xiaoshu.
Wang Shanghao, Dr. Reed. It's good to see you again.
How do you feel? Physically speaking, I mean.
I don't feel good, Dr. Reed. Not at all.
You should recover quickly after taking this.
Thank you, Doctor.
Goodbye for now. Good evening, Xiaoshu.
Wang Shanghao, Dr. Reed. It's good to see you again.
From Lord.
it a success, you cruel demon.